Good evening, folks, and welcome to the latest installment of the RO Sports Show, brought to you by RO Yellow, Richmond County's new online business directory. And for those wondering what's going on in the world of Raider sports, we've got all of that lined up here for you in the Ross Raider Wrap-Up. Let's begin. Girls volleyball. Head coach Ashley Larson made her return to the sidelines after 6 weeks off due to maternity leave. On Tuesday, she came back to a Lady Raiders SAC win over visiting Hope County High School. They returned to the win column following a 2-loss week last week, beating the Lady Bucks 3-0. Set scores were 25-14, 25-14 again, and 25-11 to finish it out. Hope County, unfortunately, now 0-15 overall, 0-11 in the SAC. This is the 14th win for Richmond and the team's 7th sweep of the season and 8th win at home in 10 tries, so doing very well on the court. Quote, "It feels good to be back and even better to come back to a win," Larson said after the match. The girls were really excited start to finish. Richmond controlled the tempo of the match from the first set, never trailing at any point in the 3 sets. As the match progressed, Larson gave her starters a break and leaned more on her substitutions to finish out the win. She went on to say, "All of the girls who came off the bench have worked hard this season, so I wanted to get them some playing time, and they did really well." At one point, she went on to say, "The court was full of only girls who will be here next year." So, future continues to be bright for the Lady Raiders volleyball team. With Jack Britt's loss on Tuesday to Purnell Sweat, the Lady Raiders are now in sole possession of 3rd place in the SAC standings. The Lady Raiders currently sit at 14-4 overall, 6-4 in the Sandhills Athletic Conference. Moving on to the golf course, the Lady Raiders kicking off its first 2-match week of the season. The Lady Raiders golf team again showed major improvements Monday at Bayonet at Puppy Creek Golf Course. Just a week after seeing 5 of its 6 players shoot season-low rounds, the Richmond Senior High School girls golf team followed up with its best combined 9-hole score. Again, only playing 9 holes instead of the traditional 18 due to weather. But with that being said, the match, which was hosted by Hope County High School, saw the top 4 Lady Raiders score total as 217, which is good for 73 over, 2 strokes better than last week's performance. Quote, "Scoring conditions were perfect today thanks to the weather and the course setup," said head coach Keith Parsons. "I'm so impressed we took advantage to post our best score of the season." Senior #1 golfer Haley Miller continued her hot streak, taking 2 more strokes off her scorecard from last week. She finished with a team low round of 41, good for only 5 over, as she continues to improve ahead of the regional tournament. Pinecrest High School, always dominant in golf, got their 5th straight win with a team score of 2 over, good for 146 overall. Jack Britt coming in 2nd with an overall score of 172. Purnell Sweat finishing 3rd with 196. And again, the Lady Raiders coming in 4th there. The Lady Raiders will now head to Scotch Meadows Country Club in Laurinburg for another SAC tournament. Golfers will begin teeing off at 2 p.m. Moving forward to the soccer field, boys soccer in action on Monday, lost to those same Pinecrest Patriots 5-0 up in Southern Pines in Moore County. This actually ended the Richmond Raiders' 4-game SAC winning streak. 7th straight match unfortunately lost to the Patriots. Richmond also fell by the same score on its home pitch back on September 9th. Pinecrest would use 3 first-half goals to take the lead and added 2 more insurance goals in the closing 40 minutes. Notching goals in the 5th, 15th, and 25th minutes against goalkeeper Jay Ammons were Jair Ballesteros, William Smith, and Nick Vinces. Quote, they said they scored early when we couldn't mark up, and he put a nice header in, and we just dug ourselves a hole early and never really got out, end quote, from head coach Chris Larson. This was the 3rd shutout against Richmond this season. The Pats outscored Richmond 12-6 in the game, meaning that the Patriots were able to score 5 goals on just 12 shots. Head coach Larson went on to say, "We had some opportunities to score tonight, but the back of the net just wasn't there." Richmond now 5-8-2 overall and 5-4 in the Sandhills Athletic Conference, moved to 5th place in the SAC with the loss. Moving on to junior varsity football. A lot of Pinecrest action this week. A week ago, the JV Raiders lost to Pinecrest 9-6 on the road in Southern Pines in what can only be described as a defensive tug of war. This is the first conference loss for the Raiders in over 3 years. Head coach Patrick Hope's team collected 184 total yards on offense compared to 194 from the Patriots. So it was a very, very close game, not only in the score, but if you dig into the stats. Richmond picked up 10 first downs compared to the Patriots' 9. From head coach Patrick Hope, he said the game played out like we expected. We wanted to make Pinecrest play 4 quarters and find ourselves a way to win at the end, since Pinecrest hadn't had to do that all season. We just ended up on the wrong side of the score. The Raiders defense forced 3 fumbles on the night, seeing sophomore linebackers Gabe Altman and Mikey Baldwin and cornerback Cason Douglas recover the ball. The Raiders' offense, however, had 4 second-half possessions, punting and fumbling once and turning the ball over twice on downs in its final 2 possessions. Coach Hope went on to say, we had a lot of opportunities to close in on them offensively, but just came up short. The JV Raiders, 2-2 overall on the season, will look to reset when they host Jack Britt tonight in another SAC battle. Kickoff is set for that game for 6:30 p.m. And finally, to wrap up the wrap-up, going to varsity football action. Playing at home for the 2nd straight week, the number 2 Raiders beat number 16 Pinecrest 36-0. Also, the 2nd straight season, Richmond has shut out the Patriots. Raiders now 6-0 overall, 2-0 in the Sandhills Athletic Conference. The Raiders extended their regular season winning streak all the way up to 15 games, so congratulations, of course, on that. This was the 4th shutout by the Raider defense in 6 games this season, so obviously the defense hitting on all cylinders. Richmond held Pinecrest, who is, by the way, 5-1 overall, 1-1 in the SAC, to just 211 yards of total offense and created 7 failed tries on 13 third down conversion attempts. Coming off a multiple-week hiatus following a concussion, junior linebacker and this week's male athlete of the week, presented to you by Moss Brothers Tire and Service, C.J. Tillman collected 3 sacks on the Patriots quarterback Ben Garbark on 3 consecutive plays. Don't see that very often. And forced a fumble alongside teammate Zaire Baldwin inside the 5-yard line. Quote, a lot of guys rotated in on the action. We had some injuries, and those guys stepped up big to do their job for this team, regardless of the reps they had in practice. I'm really proud of that. That's a quote from head coach Brian Till. The Raiders recorded 268 rushing yards and 137 passing yards and put points on the board on 6 of their 8 drives. Junior quarterback Caleb Hood was 8 of 12 for 123 yards with 1 touchdown. He also picked up a rushing touchdown very early in the ball game. Matter of fact, that might have been the first play of the game for the Raiders. Senior running back Jaheim Covington had 75 yards of himself on 11 rushes. Also picked up 2 touchdowns to bring his season total all the way up to 9 total touchdowns on the season. So Covington having a great year as well. Wide receiver Dalton Stroman picked up his team-leading 7th receiving touchdown with his 123 passing yards. Hood has now surpassed the 1,000-yard mark on the season while adding a game-high 98 yards on the ground to bring his season total to 385 yards rushing. Running back Jerron Coleman was 2nd behind Hood with 93 rushing yards of his own on just 9 carries. Moving forward, the Richmond Raiders varsity football will hit the road tomorrow night, Friday, heading to Jack Britt, who's 5-1 overall, just like the Patriots, 1-1 in the SAC for their first away SAC contest of the season. Kickoff for tomorrow night in Fayetteville is set for 7:30 p.m. Also, if you head to the richmondobserver.com, you can find full interviews with Keelan Hood, Jaheim Covington, C.J. Tillman, and Coach Brian Till, as well as all the stats, more interviews, everything you need to know, all the info you want to know about Richmond Raider athletics, you can find on the richmondobserver.com. Of course, RO Sports, your real source for Raider athletics. That's going to do it for the Ross Raider Wrap-Up and this week's RO Sports Show. I'm your host, Matt Harrelson. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of the RO Sports Show. Have a great week.